Our story takes place in a huge building. Our protagonist, a delivery man, arrives here to complete his delivery. However, he is really frustrated because the customer who placed the order lives on the 28th floor, and they didn't give him a heads up that the elevator was out of order. He wouldn't have accepted this delivery if they had told him beforehand. After finally reaching the 28th floor, he rings the bell and says, "Sir, your delivery is here." Suddenly, a middle-aged woman opens the door. She is really angry upon seeing our protagonist and asks him, "What on earth took you so long? The place I ordered from is literally across the street." She snatches the food from our protagonist's hand and says, "There's no way I'm paying for the delivery fee when it took you forever to get here." Our protagonist tries to explain that the elevator wasn't working and he had to climb 28 floors. But she doesn't pay any attention to him and starts inspecting her food, complaining, "Seriously? My food's all cold. I knew this would happen. Delivery guys these days so unreliable." However, our protagonist is really angry at her, thinking, "Then why don't you just get off your lazy butt and pick it up yourself?" But he can't say that because if he does, he will lose his job. So he asks for her forgiveness, saying he will do better next time. Still frustrated, he takes a deep breath to calm himself. If he receives any complaints, his boss might suspend his deliveries for a few days. But what else can he do? It's his fault for being broke. After that, he starts heading back to work. But as he is leaving, he notices a gate. Some years ago, these portals to other realms began appearing all around the globe. Within these gates lie dungeons swarming with monsters, a threat too great for humankind to confront single-handedly. Then, one day, the gods, whom we call mythicals, handpicked a few humans and gave them extraordinary abilities. These select individuals took it upon themselves to defeat the dungeons, and later came to be called hunters by the rest of the world. Our protagonist changes his route and starts looking for another way to go back to work, because it's going to take forever to circle around this thing. However, he knows that for regular folks like him, all this supernatural stuff is just a pain in the neck. But suddenly, he gets a call from his boss asking him, "What the heck happened with your customer?" Because they had just received a call from the snack shop owner, and they're switching to another delivery service because of his screw-up. His boss said that he already has enough problems managing this business as it is. "Anyway, you won't be handling any deliveries for the next week, got that?" Our protagonist asked his boss to listen to him, but his boss had already ended the call. After that, he started searching for what his boss had just mentioned. He was really surprised to see that the customer he had just visited filed a complaint against him saying, "I live across the street and the delivery still took over 30 minutes. My tteokbokki was cold and the side dishes I ordered were soggy. I ended up throwing everything away." And Gugumong, 389 Snack Shop, wrote an apology to her saying, "Let me start off by saying how sorry we are. Also, we appreciate your feedback and are looking into switching delivery services. Once again, we're sorry for the inconvenience." Our protagonist was shocked to see that, and asked his boss to let him explain what happened there. However, his boss didn't listen and ended the call. Our protagonist became really frustrated and started shouting loudly because he has to pay his rent next week. He might have to consider delivering packages now. Angry and frustrated, our protagonist thought, "Why can't I be chosen for that mythical's blessing or whatever it's called? Then I could just breeze through life as a hunter." But he realized that this is not going to happen and went home. But suddenly he heard a harp, and suddenly a blue window popped up in front of his face, saying, "You have a new delivery request." He started wondering what this was. He had never seen this app before, and what's with this pop-up? He was just thinking about it when suddenly his smartphone started glowing really brightly. And in the next moment, when he opened his eyes, he found himself in an unfamiliar place, in front of a beautiful palace surrounded by clouds and flying horses. Our protagonist, surprised and wondering where he was, thought if he was dreaming. But suddenly he realized and wondered if he was about to be chosen by a mythical. Tears started falling from his eyes, thinking, "I can finally say goodbye to my days as a delivery guy and can live a carefree life." But suddenly his phone started ringing. He got a system notification. "You have a new delivery request." Our protagonist was really confused and didn't know what this was. Wondering if this was a delivery app? And what's Hebe Nectar? What is all this? However, he was really curious and accepted the delivery request to see what it was. When he accepted the delivery request, the doors of the palace opened for him. After that, he went into the palace with his bike. Moments later, he reached his destination according to the map. This is the place! Unreal! He was really curious after seeing this beautiful place and wondered, so this is where the gods live. After that, he went into the palace. Moments later, he reached the wooden door and wondered if he was supposed to pick up the delivery here. Without wasting any time, he knocked on the door. He was really nervous, wondering if meeting a god here might actually give him a shot at becoming a hunter. Suddenly, a beautiful goddess opened the door and asked our protagonist who he was. He replied that he was here for a delivery. However, before he could fully explain, the goddess was surprised and wondered what a mere mortal was doing in Olympus. She asked our protagonist to explain himself and how he managed to trespass here. Our protagonist explained that he also wanted to know how he got here. He mentioned that a weird delivery app popped up on his phone, and the next moment, he was here. After hearing about the delivery app, the goddess realized that this was Hermes' doing. She asked our protagonist to wait here for a minute, explaining that normally humans aren't even allowed to touch this. She handed him a yellow potion bottle, saying, "My brother will throw a fit if he doesn't get this in time, so please make sure to deliver this to him quickly. However, don't even think about taking a single sip of this. Understood? I'm watching you, and if you do anything, I will kill you." After saying this, she went back into her house. Our protagonist got really angry, wondering just what the heck was going on. He thought he had finally escaped the delivery man life, but now even the gods here were treating him like some lowlife who was going to steal their food. He thought, it just looks like apple juice for Pete's sake. Should I just ditch this order? However, he couldn't do that. He needed to earn some money so he could pay his rent next week. Suddenly, he realized that the goddess had said she wanted him to deliver this to her brother, who must also be a god, right? Then, while he was here, he might as well ask him to become his mythical patron. This will be the last delivery I ever make, he thought. After that, he started on his way, and sometime later, he finally reached his destination. He knocked on the door and announced, "There is a delivery for you." When no one answered, he went into the house. However, he was surprised and wondered why it was sweltering inside. "Feels like I'm in a sauna. Why is it so hot?" he thought. Suddenly, he noticed a man standing in front of a fire, making weapons. The man noticed our protagonist and asked who he was. Our protagonist, really scared, explained that he was not an intruder or anything. He had a delivery. The man came closer and said, "Oh, you must be the one delivering what my sister sent." Our protagonist was shocked to see that he and the goddess he met before were brother and sister. However, he couldn't believe it as they looked nothing alike. Maybe they're not related? However, the red-bearded god realized that he was not that kid, Hermes. But when he found out that our protagonist is a human, he became really angry and unsheathed his weapon, asking our protagonist how he got here. Our protagonist asked him to wait a second, explaining that his sister had asked him to get this to him quickly. The red-bearded god was really surprised after seeing the yellow potion. He asked our protagonist if he really brought that all the way here without having a sip. Our protagonist said, obviously. I'm not some petty thief who would taste someone else's drink," and asked him to take it already. After hearing our protagonist's words, the red-bearded god started laughing, leaving our protagonist really confused as to why he was laughing. The red-bearded god said that he is quite the upstanding fellow, explaining that a sip of that nectar would have made him a god. It's remarkable that he wasn't even remotely tempted. Our protagonist was shocked and realized that this apple juice-like liquid could actually turn him into a god. This is it. I can finally say goodbye to being a delivery guy forever, he thought. However, before he could take a sip, the red-bearded god snatched the yellow potion from our protagonist's hands and started drinking it. Our protagonist asked if he could have a sip of this. However, he didn't listen and said, "You gotta chug that stuff in one shot." After that, he smashed the bottle on the ground, saying, "Oh, it's been ages since I've tasted nectar that fresh. Looks like you didn't waste any time getting here." Then he came close to our protagonist and started shaking his hand, saying, "I like you, kid." He introduced himself as Hephaestus and asked our protagonist what his name was. Our protagonist replied and said that his name is Ha-Jun Lee. Hephaestus was really surprised after hearing his name, saying, "Ha-Jun Lee, is it? What a peculiar name." However, he thanked Ha-Jun Lee for today. After he'd had a refreshing drink, Hephaestus got back to work and wished Ha-Jun Lee a safe travel. Ha-Jun Lee asked Hephaestus to stop, saying he hadn't been paid yet, thinking, "There's no way I'm leaving empty-handed." Hephaestus asked Ha-Jun Lee if he meant his delivery fee. He explained that he should have already received it. After saying this, Hephaestus went back to his work. However, Ha-Jun Lee was really confused and wondered what he meant by that. But suddenly, he realized and opened his delivery app. After that, his phone started glowing, and in the next moment, he found himself in his house, having earned 1,000 points for completing his delivery. Ha-Jun Lee lay on his bed thinking, "I'm sure it wasn't a dream. I was surrounded by that bizarre light again, and suddenly found myself back on Earth. So I assumed it was all just a wild dream." But when he got home, a pop-up was hovering in front of him. He was really frustrated because he didn't even know what he was supposed to use these points for, and he thought, shouldn't he have paid me in cash or something? There I was, face to face with a god, and this is the reward I end up with. I'm not asking for much. All he had to do was make me the world's strongest S-rank hunter. However, suddenly another notification popped up in front of him, explaining that points can be traded for various items at the shop. It asked, "Do you want to access the shop now?" After seeing this, Ha-Jun Lee clicked on Visit Shop, thinking maybe he'd be able to buy something with the points he had. There were various items he could buy with points, like a golden apple for 1,000 points, a wooden axe for 5,000 points, a lead arrow for 10,000 points, a golden arrow for 50,000 points, and a scooter for 100,000 points. Ha-Jun Lee was really surprised and wondered, "What is all this crap? None of it is useful. And what's up with the scooter? Why is it so expensive? I can't afford any of the gear that hunters use. And even if I somehow managed to buy any of it, I doubt I'd last 2 seconds in a dungeon. It's pointless. I'll never become a hunter." So he started scrolling to find something affordable that he could use. However, he was really surprised after seeing that he could also exchange points into real money. 1 point is equal to 10,000 Korean won. He couldn't believe his eyes. To find out if this was real or not, he exchanged 1 point. In the next moment, 10,000 Korean won appeared in front of him. He was really surprised. He didn't know what had just happened. When he looked into his system window, he saw that 1 point had been deducted from his account. Ha-Jun Lee was still in great shock and couldn't believe his eyes. He started exchanging his points into real money. He became really happy, exclaiming, "This is what I'm talking about. Is this for real?" After receiving the money, the first thing our protagonist does is head to a restaurant to satisfy his hunger. He feels immense joy after his meal, thinking, so the money I got from the shop was legit. To be sure, he inserts a bill into the ATM, which accepts it without any issues. He still has 800 points left and 10 million won in cash, approximately 10,000 USD. Overcome with emotion, he starts crying and exclaims that he earned this much money from a single delivery. A waitress notices Ha-Jun Lee crying and asks if something is wrong with the food. He replies that he's crying because the food at this restaurant is so delicious. The waitress is relieved and goes back to her work. However, she becomes quite frightened when she sees Ha-Jun Lee laughing hysterically. Meanwhile, Ha-Jun wonders what he should do with all this money. While he's thinking about it, he suddenly hears on the news that the nation's top hunter guild, Youngwon Guild, has just announced the successful recruitment of Hyonsong Lim. With their newest member on board, Youngwon Guild is speeding up preparations to raid Tartarus, infamously known as the world's most treacherous dungeon. Hyonsong Lim is reportedly under contract with the mythical Hephaestus. After hearing the name Hephaestus, Ha-Jun Lee wonders if Hephaestus is that guy's mythical figure. However, he realizes he couldn't care less about any of that. As far as he's concerned, Hephaestus is the best customer he's ever had. After filling his belly, Ha-Jun Lee leaves the restaurant, exclaiming that he ate so much. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing. He wonders if it's a new order. But he is ready. He had a feeling this would happen, which is why he brought his scooter with him. He prepares his scooter and checks his phone for new delivery requests. Upon clicking the accept button, he finds himself in a completely different place. Surprised by his surroundings, he wonders if he's in some sort of botanical garden, but quickly composes himself and starts to figure out what he has to deliver this time. Suddenly, he hears a voice asking if he is Mr. Ha-Jun Lee. When he turns toward the voice, he is taken aback to see a beautiful goddess. The goddess is delighted to meet Ha-Jun Lee and introduces herself as Demeter. Ha-Jun Lee bows before her and introduces himself. Demeter says that she heard from her nephew that Ha-Jun Lee is a delivery man. Confused, Ha-Jun wonders who she could be referring to. Demeter clarifies that she's talking about Hephaestus, whom Ha-Jun met before. Still puzzled, Ha-Jun thinks to himself that their family has some serious genetic quirks that need fixing. Demeter explains that Hephaestus praised Ha-Jun for delivering the nectar promptly and in perfect condition. Seeing him as a reliable person, she asks if he could deliver something for her. Brimming with confidence, Ha-Jun Lee replies, "Your judgment is spot on, ma'am. Rest assured, I'll deliver anything you need." He thinks to himself that if it's anything like the last delivery, this will be easy money for him. He wonders if she'll ask him to deliver a wreath or something similar. Demeter, seeing Ha-Jun Lee in good spirits, says, "Oh, that's good to hear." She asks Ha-Jun Lee to wait just a moment, and suddenly a yellow light begins to gather in her hands. A moment later, a very cute gift box appears in her grasp. Ha-Jun Lee is astonished to see this. Demeter hands him the box and asks if he would mind delivering the lunchbox to her daughter. She wishes she could deliver it herself, but as divine beings, they can't leave their palaces without good reason. Ha-Jun Lee is very surprised and thinks, a lunchbox delivery. This will be easy peasy. He assures Demeter that he will deliver it safely. But suddenly, Demeter becomes very sad, causing all the flowers in the garden to wither. Ha-Jun Lee is startled and wonders what's happening. Demeter thanks him and returns to her palace. Still in shock, Ha-Jun wonders what's going on and why everything suddenly got so dark. He's nervous, wondering if something might go wrong, but then realizes, wait, what if this isn't just an ordinary lunchbox? What if it's a bomb? However, it doesn't matter to him what it is, as long as he gets paid. She said it was for her daughter, so there's no way she'd want to deliver an explosive. He places the lunchbox in the scooter and checks his phone to see where he needs to deliver it. As he opens his smartphone, a bright light appears in front of him, and the next moment, he's back on Earth. Surprised, Ha-Jun Lee wonders why he is back on Earth, and what happened to his delivery. He checks his phone and says, "Wait, so right now I'm in Noryangjin, and I'm supposed to drop off the delivery near Sinchon?" He is stunned, and wonders if Demeter's daughter lives in Korea. But then he remembers Demeter telling him that. Divine beings can't leave their palaces without a good excuse. He's pretty sure that's what she said. Surprised, he wonders, what's a goddess's daughter doing in Korea? He calms himself and says, "Guess I'll find out when I get there." He's excited about this delivery, thinking he's never been this pumped about one before. I wonder how many points I'll get this time. Sometime later, he receives a system notification that he's approaching his destination. Ha-Jun Lee is shocked, saying, "You've got to be kidding me. If I had known this was the place, I wouldn't have accepted this order." He wonders if Demeter's daughter lives in the world's most perilous dungeon. There's a reason they call it the Graveyard of Hunters. Even the best hunters in the world don't stand a chance in there. No one knows what lies in the depths of Tartarus. Ha-Jun is terrified and thinks, no, wait, why am I assuming the daughter's inside? She might be waiting at the entrance. Suddenly, he gets another notification saying, "Destination updated." He checks his phone and is surprised to see a map that looks like something from a video game. Realizing it's a dungeon map where he must deliver the lunchbox, he becomes furious and exclaims, "No way! I am not doing this! I'm not going in there! I'm canceling this order!" When he tries to cancel the order, he suddenly sees that failure to complete the delivery or canceling the order will result in divine punishment, transforming the offender into a pig while retaining human consciousness. Ha-Jun is angry, thinking, what kind of ludicrous punishment is that? He knows he's in trouble and wonders why he accepted this delivery without checking the details. But then he thinks, there's no way I could have predicted this. But he's confused, wondering how he's supposed to bypass those guards in the first place, since he doesn't even have a hunter's license. All those tonkatsu, BBQ pork, and pork stew dishes start popping into his mind. But he calms himself and sees another notification. He wonders, what now? The system asks if he needs assistance with his deliveries and suggests checking out the shop for helpful items. He thinks, what's the point when I can barely afford anything? Then it occurs to him that he might be able to exchange all his points for cash and hire some hunters. When he sees the shop, he's surprised by a flash offer. He can buy a Kaini replica for 800 points. He wonders what this Kaini replica is. He's shocked to see that it can only be used twice and costs 8 million won. The Kaini replica is a copy of the Helm of Hades, an artifact that completely conceals the wearer's appearance and presence. Its duration is 30 minutes, and it's available for 2 uses. It's exactly what I need right now, he thinks, but also considers it a ripoff. After purchasing it, he grumbles, lousy, good-for-nothing Greek gods. Once this delivery is done, I'm finished taking any more of their orders. The Kaini replica appears in front of him, but he fails to catch it as it materializes midair, and it falls to the ground. Shocked, Hajun Li yells, "My 8 million won!" He quickly gets off his scooter and retrieves it from the ground. After dusting it off, he wears it and walks comfortably past the guards. One of the guards feels a breeze and asks another, "Why is it windy all of a sudden?" The other replies, "Stay sharp." Yongwon Guild plans to raid this dungeon later, while Hajun Li comfortably makes his way inside. He's curious, wondering who on earth would have lunch in such a creepy place. But he doesn't care, and continues further into the dungeon. He passes through many eerie locations and encounters numerous ferocious monsters. As an ordinary delivery man without a hunter's license, a contracted mythical creature, physical abilities, supernatural powers, or special skills, Hajun Li manages against all odds to become the first person ever to reach the deepest depths of Tartarus. Upon finally reaching his destination safely, he sees that no one is there. He looks left and right to find anyone around, relieved that he made it within 30 minutes, ensuring he won't be turned into a pig. He calls out, "Anybody home? Your delivery's here." Suddenly, he notices glowing eyes ahead of him. Surprised, he wonders, "What the heck is that?" But then he becomes really scared upon seeing a 3-headed dog in front of him. Terrified by this monster, Hajun thinks, "I should have just chosen to become a pig." He closes his eyes and thinks, "Is this the end for me? But I still have 199 points left. This sucks. I spent all that money on this stupid helm, and the only thing I treated myself to was a big plate of black bean noodles with seafood." Suddenly, he remembers that he can use the helm one more time. But before he can activate it, the 3-headed dog starts to attack. Hajun realizes it's too late, but luckily, someone comes to his rescue. A little girl stops the 3-headed dog, telling it not to eat anything dirty. The dog freezes in place at the sound of her voice. Hajun slowly opens his eyes and turns his head toward the voice. He's surprised to see a beautiful little girl and wonders, what's she doing on the bottom floor of Tartarus? The dangerous 3-headed dog becomes as docile as a regular dog in front of her. She assures Hajun that he has nothing to worry about because her dog doesn't bite. Hajun is shocked. But he realizes that this little girl looks exactly like her mother, Demeter. That dog may not bite, but it could still swallow me whole. He thinks. He approaches the girl to tell her he has a delivery for her, but before he can finish his sentence, he hears a voice calling, "Persephone, where did you go?" Hajun is stunned to see a dangerous-looking man. The man sees the little girl playing with Cerberus and entertaining a mortal who dared to tread into the underworld, which he, Hades, rules. Hajun is scared and tries to explain the situation, but his entire body trembles with fear upon seeing Hades, the god of the underworld. Hades tells Hajun that he is the first living human in several thousand years to venture into the afterlife since Orpheus. After saying this, Hades uses his death magic, and black strings wrap around Hajun's neck, causing him to struggle for breath. Hades explains that Orpheus came to rescue his deceased wife, but Hajun has come to steal his helm. However, he is surprised to find the helm he confiscates from Hajun is a fake. The little girl approaches Hades and says, "Since he made it all the way here, shouldn't we at least hear him out?" Taking her advice, Hades releases Hajun and demands, "State your intentions, mortal. Why do you dare trespass upon this domain?" In a trembling voice, Hajun pleads with Hades to have mercy on him, explaining that he is just there to make a delivery. Hades is surprised to hear about a delivery and asks if Hajun has something for him, the lord of the underworld. Hajun clarifies that the delivery is not for Hades, but for his daughter. His wife has sent something for her. Both Hades and the little girl are puzzled and ask what his wife sent for their daughter, and why a mere mortal like Hajun is making this delivery instead of Hermes. Trembling with fear, Hajun says he doesn't know all the details, and hands over the lunchbox that Demeter had asked him to deliver. The little girl immediately recognizes it as a lunchbox made by her mother. Seeing the lunchbox, Hades asks Hajun, "Didn't you say my wife requested this delivery?" Hajun replies, "Yes, she asked me to bring this to your daughter." Hades explains that the lunchbox was actually made by his mother-in-law. Hajun is surprised to hear this. He then asks Hades, "Where is your wife right now?"
Damn!
Upon hearing the answer, Hajun exclaims, "That's disgusting. You're way too old for her." Hajun suddenly covers his mouth with his hand to prevent himself from saying anything more, realizing that he spoke without thinking. Hades, furious, demands, "What did you just say to me, Hades, the lord of the underworld?" Trembling with fear, Hajun begs Hades to wait, claiming he can explain. But he knows he's in grave danger. Hades' expression becomes serious, as if he's ready to kill Hajun. But after hearing Hajun's words, he suddenly laughs loudly. Hajun is bewildered, wondering what just happened. Hades says he can't remember the last time he had such a good laugh. He never imagined that a mere human would dare insult him, Hades, the lord of the underworld. He then asks Hajun for his name. Hajun introduces himself as Hajun Lee. Hades declares that since his antics amused him, he'll pardon his insolence this time. However, he warns him that if he dares mock him again, he should be prepared for dire consequences. Scared, Hajun agrees. Hades gives him his payment and asks him to thank his mother-in-law for the lunchbox. Suddenly, a system notification pops up in front of Hajun. He is surprised to see the message. "Delivery complete. You've earned 10,000 points. You've been awarded an extra 5,000 points by Hades, god of the underworld. Current points, 15,999 points." Hades also returns Hajun's helm. In front of Hades, however, the helm is nothing more than a mere toy. Still staring at the system notification, Hajun collects himself and thanks Hades. Meanwhile, at the first floor of the dungeon, Do-yun Ha, the newest member of Yongwon Guild, is fighting a dragon. He is the captain of Team 1, with a global ranking of 100, and a combat-type hunter. He is fighting the dragon, but it's a really tough opponent. The dragon uses its roar attack and pushes everyone back. However, one of them sees an opportunity and attacks from behind. He uses his slash-so technique and kills the dragon with just one move. After the fight, he is utterly exhausted. He approaches Do-yun, who sustained minor injuries from the dragon's attack, and tells him he did a great job. Finally, they have cleared the first floor of Tartarus. His name is Seongjun Park, and he is the guildmaster of Yongwon Guild, ranked 3 globally and a mythical-type hunter. Everyone is thrilled to have cleared the first floor of the Tartarus dungeon. The guildmaster congratulates everyone, saying, "You all did a fantastic job. It's all thanks to each of you that Yongwon Guild now holds the record for reaching the farthest point in Tartarus." Finally, the guildmaster breathes a sigh of relief. Do-yun tells the guildmaster he truly thought they were goners. The guildmaster replies, "No matter what anyone else says, you are the real MVP today. I don't know what our guild would do without you." Do-yun, moved by this, says he'll follow him to the ends of the earth. Meanwhile, a guild member is harvesting the dragon core. The guildmaster asks her to take it easy, saying they can do it later. Her name is Arun Beck, and she is the deputy guildmaster of Yongwon Guild, ranked 17 globally, and also a combat-type hunter. She agrees, but continues her work. The guildmaster understands her eagerness to collect as many mana stones as possible, but she suddenly hears a sound approaching them. She informs the guildmaster that something is headed their way, and quickly, everyone gets alert as the guildmaster unsheathes his sword and thinks, "This is bad! None of us have enough energy to even defend ourselves." He asks everyone to get into position. It seems there are still more monsters left. Aaron alerts everyone. It's approaching quickly. Startled by this, the guildmaster urges everyone to remain calm, assuring them that he and the deputy guildmaster will hold the monsters off. He instructs everyone, if things get too intense, I want you all to flee. Hearing this, everyone gets angry with the guildmaster and declares they will fight alongside him and follow him to the ends of the earth. The guildmaster is delighted to hear this and says, "You goofs!" Aaron tells the guildmaster that the monster is coming closer. But the dense fog makes it impossible to see clearly. Suddenly, they spot a massive shadow approaching through the mist. However, it's not a monster, but Hajun Lee, our protagonist. He is surprised to see so many people in front of him and asks them to step aside, saying he almost ran someone over. He then notices the dragon carcass and asks if they all took down this monster, praising them. That's awesome. He notes it's fortunate for him because his helm's effects were about to wear off anyway. He warns them, beyond this point, there are a bunch of monsters wielding black magic, so be ready to fend off magical attacks. He wishes them luck with their raid and starts walking toward home. Everyone is shocked and wonders, who was that guy? 150 million. When measured in years, it could take you back to the era of dinosaurs. It's a number nearly 3 times the population of Korea. Assuming you earn 3,001 per delivery, you'd need to complete 50,000 deliveries to reach that total, which is the exact amount Hajun would have in cash if he exchanged all his points, 150 million won. He stares at the system window, laughing, thinking he could admire that number all day. Of course, he was nearly turned into a pig, almost eaten by a 3-headed dog after narrowly escaping death, and then nearly strangled to death by the god of the underworld himself. He's been through too much and is exhausted. But in the face of 150 million won, none of that matters, not when he's banked over 100 grand. He smiles, feeling hungry for more. From this moment on, he'll do whatever it takes to complete as many deliveries as he can. But first, he needs to eat something because he's starving. Hajun wonders what he should eat. Perhaps some chicken and beer. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yongwon Guild's guildmaster organizes a press conference and thanks everyone for attending. That wraps up today's press conference with Yongwon Guild's guildmaster, Hunter Seongjun Park, he says. Doyun asks the guildmaster if he's finally done with the reporters. The guildmaster, who feels very tired, replies, "Ever since our guild cleared the first floor, I haven't been able to catch a break. Now, I've got to go see the chairman of the Hunter Association." Doyun acknowledges that things are hectic, but asks if the guildmaster happened to mention that guy during the press conference. The guildmaster asks if Doyun means the man who roams around Tartarus on his scooter. He replies that he didn't mention him, not yet. Since they're still in the dark about who that was, he thought it best not to bring it up. He considers it a major oversight on his part, as he was too exhausted from the battles to even think about pursuing him. Doyun reassures him, "It's fine. We're gathering black box footage from the cars in that area." Still confused, they wonder who this person could be and speculate if he could have been a monster. He showed up suddenly beyond the first floor, a point only their guild has reached. Aaron explains. He was wearing an odd helm while riding a scooter. Doyun suggests, maybe he was a hunter equipped with enchanted gear. I vaguely remember him mentioning something about the next floor. The guildmaster advises them not to worry too much. Our goal is to raid the dungeon, not figure out who this mystery person is. Suddenly, he remembers and asks Doyun to head to Suwon. He was planning to assign the new recruits to smelt all their weapons, but they need ores only found in the mining dungeon there. Doyun, surprised, says he has practice with his teammates tonight. The guildmaster tells him to leave that to Aaron. Since you have a driver's license, you should go. Doyun agrees. Fine. What kind of ore do you need me to get? The guildmaster replies, it's called celestial steel. Meanwhile, Hajun's chicken wings and beer have arrived, and he can't wait to dig in. But just as he's about to start eating, he receives a notification on his phone. He jumps up, grabs his phone, and sees that he has a new delivery request. Hajun smiles, thinking the chicken can wait. But he can't keep a god waiting, and suddenly a flash of light appears in front of him. In the next moment, he's teleported to the realm of the gods. Hajun is surprised and realizes this is Hephaestus' home. He's already got me lined up for another delivery. He's honestly the best customer I've ever had. However, he realizes that he was in such a hurry that he left all his gear and scooter behind. What should I do now, he wonders. Suddenly, someone calls his name from behind. Startled, he turns toward the voice and sees Hephaestus. He asks Hephaestus, "What are you doing out here? Why aren't you inside?" Hephaestus begins crying and says, "I was kicked out." Hajun is shocked and asks, "Why were you kicked out? What happened?" Hephaestus explains that he and his brother Dionysus occasionally get together for a little feast and drinks. But his wife caught him drinking and kicked him out of the house, saying, "If you're going to drink like that, do it elsewhere, and don't even bother coming home." Dionysus bolted immediately, leaving Hephaestus stranded. Hajun is astounded, thinking, "How is this pathetic guy mythical? He acts more like a human than I do." He responds sympathetically, "I feel for you. What would you like me to deliver?" With a sad face, Hephaestus asks, "Can you bring me something to eat and drink? My wife kicked me out before I could try the food, and now I'm starving to death. Not that I'd actually die since I'm a god." He even begged his sister Hebe, but she turned him down, saying she was completely out of nectar for the month. So Hephaestus only has Hajun left to rely on. After hearing this, Hajun asks if Hephaestus wants him to fetch something to eat and drink. However, he's really confused, wondering, what do gods eat anyway? He asks Hephaestus what he'd like. Hephaestus says, "Anything will do, but if I had to pick, any kind of meat with some alcohol." Hajun agrees, and asks for a moment to find something. He uses his phone to head back to Earth to get food for Hephaestus. He still can't believe he's dealing with these situations. A short while later, Hajun returns with chicken wings and beer that he'd originally bought for himself. He says to Hephaestus, "I initially bought this for myself, but I'm happy to share if you'd like some." Hephaestus is surprised to see Hajun back and asks what's in his hands. Hajun replies, "It's chicken and beer. This combo is called *chimek*. It's a popular Korean dish combining the words chicken and maekju, which is Korean for beer." Hephaestus is intrigued by the word *chimek*, but when he tries the beer, he exclaims to Hajun, "In my entire life, I don't think I've ever had such fine and refreshing beer." Hajun is happy that he likes it, but Hephaestus is initially disappointed by the size of the bird meat. However, after one bite, he's shocked and says to Hajun, "That's the best meat I've ever had." Hajun wonders if this guy is really mythical. Hephaestus thanks Hajun and promises to reward him generously. Surprised, Hajun asks what the reward will be. Hephaestus tells him to check. Suddenly, Hajun receives a system notification that the delivery is complete, and he's been awarded 15,000 points by Hephaestus, bringing his current points to 30,000. Hajun is stunned by this reward. He just got paid 150 million won for delivering some chicken. Hephaestus tells Hajun, "If there's anything you need my help with, don't hesitate to tell me. I'll help you with anything." After hearing this, Hajun thinks, "What a lovable dude. I could hug him until his ribs break," and attempts to hug him. Hephaestus asks what's gotten into him. Suddenly they hear a voice, "Sweetheart, are you drinking again? In a place like this?" The beautiful goddess is Hephaestus' wife. Hajun is astonished to see her, tears coming to his eyes as he says, "I've never seen someone that beautiful. Wait, she's married to this sorry excuse for a mythical?" He then wonders when he ended up on his knees. Hephaestus says, "I'm only out here because you told me to leave. You even said to take my drinking elsewhere." Hephaestus' wife becomes angry and says in a stern tone, "Oh, how silly of me. You're absolutely right." Seeing them argue, Hajun tells Hephaestus, "You owe her an apology. You're completely in the wrong." Hephaestus responds, "All right, Hajun Lee, if even you agree with her, I'll apologize." Upon realizing this is Hajun Lee, Hephaestus' wife introduces herself, saying, "Nice to meet you, I'm Aphrodite. Let me apologize for my husband's behavior. I'm sorry if he's caused you any inconvenience." With a goofy grin, Hajun says, "It's no problem at all. I'm just grateful he hires me for my services." Hephaestus asks Hajun if he could deliver something right away. Hesitant to answer, Hajun listens as Aphrodite adds, "Hephaestus has told me so much about you. He says you really know how to get the job done." Feeling encouraged, Hajun gets excited at the praise from the goddess and says, "Of course, I'm Hajun Lee, delivery man to the gods. You can count on me to deliver anything." Hephaestus, pleased, says, "Wonderful, I knew I could rely on you. Now, there's this material I need for my next smelting." When Hajun sees the delivery location, he's surprised to find it's in Suwon City, and the item is celestial steel. A moment after receiving the delivery from Hephaestus, Hajun arrives at his destination, this time needing to collect celestial steel from the Sayori mines. He can feel his heart pounding as he prepares to enter another dungeon. Before accepting the delivery, when Hephaestus asked him to deliver celestial steel, Hajun had no idea what it was. After researching, he was shocked to learn that he would need to obtain it from a dungeon. Hesitant, he told Hephaestus that he didn't think he could go. Hephaestus asked what was wrong, and Hajun explained, "I nearly died when I went into a dungeon for Demeter's delivery." Hephaestus asked, "What happened there?" Hajun said, "I'm not a hunter, so I can't fight off dungeon monsters. I used an artifact called a Kaini replica, which helped me navigate without being detected. But I've used it all up, so now it's just a regular helm." After hearing this, Hephaestus thought, a helm that's no longer usable? He asked Hajun to give it to him so he could fix it. Hajun was surprised and asked what Hephaestus meant. Hephaestus said, "I'm Hephaestus, the god of blacksmiths. Any metal or gear that passes through my hands becomes a mythical treasure. Bring me anything you have and I'll fix it for you." Now, in the present, the helm Hajun could no longer use has become a mythical treasure. He can now use it whenever he wants. He puts it on and heads towards the dungeon. Entering the dungeon, he's surprised to see so many people there. He thinks, "This dungeon is popular and all, but seriously, this is too much for me. And I thought monsters would be the issue. I'll need to go much deeper if I want to extract anything worthwhile." Meanwhile, Yongwon Guild member Doyun has also come to the Seori mines to collect celestial steel and is enjoying his snacks. 30 minutes later, after going a bit further inside, Hajun finally finds a spot with no one around. But as he goes deeper, the ground becomes bumpier. At least now he's starting to spot some minerals. But he needs to find the celestial steel. It's not a gemstone, but a chunk of steel that emits a crimson glow. He is curious and wonders how much farther he has to go to find it. As he ventures deeper, he suddenly encounters a skeleton monster that almost strikes him. Luckily, he reacts in time to save himself. But, unfortunately, his scooter hits a rock and gets damaged. Hajun is furious, thinking, "This is all because of that stupid skeleton. Why did I freak out so much when it can't even see me right now? And now my scooter's damaged." However, he isn't too worried, as he's earning millions of won and can easily buy a new one. A moment later, Hajun sees a bright light in front of him, and he knows this is what he's been looking for. The celestial steel. He parks his scooter and approaches the glowing mineral, overjoyed to have finally found it. However, he wonders how he's supposed to bring it back. He tries uprooting it with his hands, but it doesn't work. After exhausting all his efforts, he can't budge the celestial steel. Finally giving up, he thinks, "What do I do now?" Suddenly, a system notification appears in front of him, asking, "Need some assistance with your delivery? Check out the shop. You might stumble upon items that could be helpful." Hajun sees the message and thinks, "Does this thing take me for some chump?" However, when he checks the shop, he's amazed to find the Digging Delver's pickaxe, which helps mine any mineral precisely once without fail. It has one use and costs 4,700 points. Hajun is left speechless at the price. He wonders, what sort of pickaxe costs 47 million won, and it's single use only? Is that thing made of pure gold or something? Suddenly, he remembers a rental booth and says, "I'm not buying that." There's a rental booth near the entrance that costs next to nothing to rent. No way I'm wasting that much money on a measly pickaxe. I'd rather pay for more gas. After saying that, he heads back to his scooter. But seeing its condition, he realizes it's too much of a hassle to return. Should I just bite the bullet? He thinks. He decides to buy the pickaxe with 4,700 points, thinking, "I'll just complete this delivery and include the pickaxe's cost in Hephaestus's delivery fee." He uses the pickaxe on the celestial steel, and with a single strike, the steel comes free from the ground. The pickaxe then disappears after its one use. When Hajun tries to lift the celestial steel, he's astonished, thinking, "Why is this thing so heavy?" He manages to carry it and loads it onto his scooter, wishing he could just teleport straight to Olympus from the dungeon. But suddenly, after securing the celestial steel, a stone golem appears behind him. Hajun is shocked as the golem starts roaring. Meanwhile, on the other side, Doyun is fighting a skeleton monster. After defeating it, he hears a noise and wonders what it is. He listens for footsteps and prepares himself, noticing a light coming his way, Hajun's scooter light. Hajun tells Doyun to get out of the way. Doyun recognizes him, exclaiming, "It's that guy from Tartarus." But before he can ask more questions, Hajun warns him, Run now if you value your life. He speeds away. Confused, Doyen wonders what Hajun meant. When he looks behind him, he is shocked to see the stone golem approaching. He starts running and calls after Hajun. Wait, I need a ride. After completing the delivery, Hajun, fuming, complains to Hephaestus, I was almost killed again. Surprised to see him, Hephaestus says, Oh, you're back. I knew you'd get the job done in no time. Hajun replies, You should have told me beforehand how dangerous this delivery would be. Hephaestus, taken aback, says, Huh? So you weren't kidding about almost dying? There shouldn't have been anything particularly life-threatening there. Did you speed to get back faster? That really wasn't necessary. Hajun retorts, That's not what I mean. That thing was friggin' huge. Frustrated, he adds, Never mind. I'll just show you. Wait here. He retrieves the celestial steel from his scooter and places it in front of Hephaestus. Just look at this thing. Don't you think it's absolutely nuts to ask me to yank something so massive and heavy out of a monster's head? Hephaestus is shocked and asks, What is that? This question leaves Hajun stunned and confused. He snaps, What does it look like? It's the celestial metal or steel or whatever you asked for. Don't even think about telling me you requested the wrong thing. Hephaestus clarifies, That's not what I meant. He lifts the celestial steel into the air and explains, I've never seen celestial steel of such immense size and purity. How in the world did you discover this? Hajun is puzzled, not sure what he's referring to. Seeing this, Hephaestus asks him to wait and says, Let me show you something. He goes to his workshop, grabs a piece of celestial steel, and tells Hajun, This right here is the largest piece of celestial steel I've got. He then adds, You are even more impressive than I thought. He thanks Hajun for his hard work and says, It seems I owe you much more than your initial delivery fee. Hephaestus asks Hajun to check his payment, still amazed by how he managed to find such a piece. Hajun is shocked as he looks at his phone screen. Delivery complete. You've earned 20,000 points. You've been awarded an extra 30,000 points by Hephaestus. Current points, 75,300 points. Hajun can't believe it. He just earned 500 million won. Hephaestus explains that he paid Hajun extra, considering the enormous size of the celestial steel. After all, it'd be absurd to simply carve out a portion and then ask you to return what's left. Meanwhile, Hajun, overwhelmed, sits on his knees and bows before Hephaestus, saying, Thank you, sir. Hephaestus smiles and replies, There's no need for any of that. Come now, get up. However, Hajun can't stand, as his legs have given out. Meanwhile, back on Earth, in the Yongwan Guild, the Guildmaster watches the news, which reports that the Sayori mines in Suwon experienced a partial collapse following an unexplained earthquake. Fortunately, no casualties were reported. Speculation arises that the sudden earthquake could signal the emergence of new mutants or potential dungeon breaks. Turning off the TV, the Guildmaster asks Doyen if he's okay, noting that it seemed like he really had his work cut out for him. It seems like they've closed off the Sayori mines for the time being. I heard you were the last one to make it out. What happened in there? He asks. Doyen explains. There was this gigantic golem. Do you remember that guy on the scooter we saw back at Tartarus? He was there too. The Guildmaster is surprised and says, What? Last time we ran into him in Seoul, and now in Suwon too? Doyen continues, The weird thing is, that golem was chasing after him. The Guildmaster starts to consider this and says, If that's true, then it's about time we investigate him. Considering both this and what happened in Tartarus, he could be a skilled hunter flying under the radar. Doyen smiles and says, If you're looking to investigate, I'm the right person. I remember the scooter model Hajun was driving and his license plate, and I've already secured the black box footage from vehicles near the entrance. Impressed by his diligence, the Guildmaster says, Nice work. If you're able to locate him, tell him that the Guildmaster of Yongwan Guild wants to meet him. If we can bring him on board, he could be a tremendous asset to our guild. Anyway, I'm just glad you're safe, Doyen. And don't worry about the mines being closed. I'll handle it from here. Doyen, moved by the support, says, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. The Guildmaster thanks Doyen for his trust and asks if he managed to retrieve any celestial steel. Doyen is shocked, realizing he forgot to get any because he was so busy escaping. Meanwhile, Hajun is still staring at the system window, laughing, I'm rich now. It was a dangerous job, but it was worth it for 500 grand. With so much money, he wonders, maybe I should start looking for a better home. Considering top hunters rake in about 30 billion a year, minus the cost of the pickaxe. He figures he's done pretty well, pulling in 45 million won in just a day's work. But he's not sure how much longer he can keep dodging those monsters. Every time he steps into a dungeon, it gets exhausting. He wonders if there's anything useful he could buy in the shop. So he opens the shop panel and starts browsing. Disappointed, he thinks, everything's either useless or too expensive. The cheapest weapon costs 10 billion won? And since they're all replicas, he doubts they'll last. Maybe I should just give up on battling dungeon monsters, he wonders. Then something interesting catches his eye. The rider's suit, level 1. Engineered for swift and secure deliveries, the suit allows you to conquer any rugged terrain or perilous obstacle with ease. It significantly boosts the wearer's physical abilities and skills depending on the suit level. The next upgrade requires 100,000 points. It's available daily for 3 minutes. Seeing this, Hajun gets angry and thinks, why didn't the system show me this item sooner? He knows he won't find out how effective it is unless he tries it, but it's 50,000 points. Compared to his other purchases, this one's pretty pricey, but they did come in handy. He buys it, thinking of it as an investment. I can make up for spending this much by doing more deliveries. After purchasing it, the rider's suit appears in front of him. Hajun is surprised and thinks, well, I can't take it back now. With only 25,000 points left, he tries it on. It feels a bit tight, but it's like he's wearing nothing at all, and it doesn't even feel warm. This definitely isn't a regular suit. Maybe I should test it out. Meanwhile, Doyen is really tired, wondering where that guy is. He came all the way from Suwon to Seoul, following a few leads. Even with the scooter's license plate number, he couldn't access Hajun's home address, since he didn't engage in any illegal activities, so the police couldn't give him the information. Frustrated, he wonders, how am I supposed to find that guy? Suddenly, someone tells Doyen to step aside as he's standing in the middle of the road. Doyen apologizes and moves to the side. Then he notices a man with the exact same scooter model as the one he saw in the dungeon. He thinks, it seems like everyone's riding that scooter, but suddenly he realizes the color matches, and even the dents on the side are identical. When he checks the license plate, he realizes it's the man he's been looking for. He runs toward the scooter and shouts, "Stop!"